All this drama in 2026, and it's not even 2026. Anyway, Mercedes and Red Bull have been doing something the other teams think rather clever with their engine. So let's talk about what that is. So Formula One have mandated that the new engines have to have a smaller compression ratio. So what is compression ratio? Let's find out. So this is all to do with the internal combustion part of the engine system. And basically, these Formula One cars are what's called four-stroke engines. There are four processes to get the crank to turn, essentially. So step number one, intake. The piston inside the chamber is at the bottom. You can see, let me try and point it out. It's at the bottom of the chamber here. And at the top is where the air and the fuel are brought into the chamber. Step number two, which is the compression stage, is when the piston shoots up and compresses the air and the fuel mixture. Step number three is the power stroke. This is what really turns the crank, essentially. The spark plug fires, ignites that air and fuel and forces the piston down, which turns the crank. And then step number four is the exhaust. It pushes all those exhaust gases out the chamber. So the compression ratio is all about step number two. It's the difference in the space that the air and the fuel has between when the piston is at the bottom of the chamber and then it pushes up and squeezes that air and the fuel into a smaller space. And then it's that ratio between the squeezed amount of space it has and when it enters the chamber in step number one. So essentially what you need to know is that small little space that the piston squeezes the air and the fuel into and compresses means that the smaller the space and the higher the compression, essentially the more power you get out of that power stroke next when it gets ignited. And there is a limit to how much you can compress that, because if you compress it too much, it can actually pre-ignite before even the spark plug goes off. That's a whole other problem, that's knocking. But anyway, so what the Formula One have mandated is how much compression that is at the top compared to when the fuel and air goes in. So because these are all constructed parts of the engine, there's not much you can really do. But the theory is that temperature changing materials can actually adjust how much space there is when it heats up. So it can actually shrink that space, increasing the pressure for the air and the fuel, and then increasing the power output when it does ignite. So that's sort of the basics of it. I'm not even sure this is really going on. Remember last year when everyone was obsessed with phase-changing materials in the braking system on the McLaren? People were just clutching at straws a little bit. Very, very fascinating and interesting if it is, but who really knows?